Warm greetings from the High 10. It is Everyday Shenanigans on this Wednesday, September 23rd, 2020. I would like to bring you said information coming out of Louisville, Kentucky, and the source is CNN News. Louisville on edge after no officers charged directly with Breonna Taylor's death. This was updated 38 minutes ago. Louisville was on edge Wednesday evening after a former police officer was indicted only on first-degree wanton endangerment charges for his actions on the night Breonna Taylor was killed by police. Two other officers who also fired shots during the botched March raid were not indicted, meaning no officer was charged with killing the 26-year-old black EMT and aspiring nurse. After the decision was announced, members of the Kentucky National Guard and state police were activated as protesters took to the streets and some clashes erupted with officers in riot gear. The long-awaited grand jury charges against the former officer Brett Hankerson were immediately criticized as insufficient by demonstrators and activists. They had demanded more serious felony counts and the arrest of the three officers at Taylor's apartment when she was killed. The counts pertain to Hankerson allegedly firing blindly through a door and window, with bullets entering an adjacent apartment where a pregnant woman and child were home, according to the state attorney general. The other two officers, Sergeant John Mattingly and Detective Miles Cosgrove, will face no charges following months of demonstrations and unrest over the killing. Kentucky Attorney General Daniel Cameron on Wednesday said the officers were justified in their use of force because Taylor's boyfriend fired at officers first. An FBI ballistics analyst showed Cosgrove fired the shot that killed Taylor, he said. The grand jury decision comes more than 6 months after Taylor was shot to death after the three Louisville police officers broke down the door to her apartment while executing a late-night warrant in narcotics investigation on March 13th. Attorney for Taylor's family called the decision outrageous and offensive. The decision before my office is not to decide if the loss of Breonna Taylor's life was a tragedy, said Cameron, the first black person to hold the post in a Republican rising star. The answer to that question is unequivocally yes. Cameron called Taylor's death a gut-wrenching emotional case. He defended the length of the investigation, saying the time reflected how important it was to get this right. I certainly understand the pain that has been brought about by the tragic loss of Miss Taylor. I understand that as an attorney general who is responsible for all 120 counties in terms of being the chief legal officer, the chief law enforcement officer. I understand that as a black man how painful this is, which is why it was so incredibly important to make sure that we did everything we possibly could to uncover every fact. Attorney Ben Crump, who represents Taylor's family, in a statement called the decision outrageous and offensive. If Hankerson's behavior constituted wanton endangerment of the people in the apartment next to hers, then it should also be considered wanton endangerment to Breonna. In fact, it should have been ruled wanton murder, he said. The American Civil Liberties Union of Kentucky, in a tweet, called the decision to not charge the officers in her death the latest miscarriage of justice in our nation's long history and denying that Black Lives Matter. Once again, a prosecutor has refused to hold law enforcement accountable for killing a young black woman. Breonna Taylor should be alive today. Amen. The NAACP said in a statement that the justice system failed Taylor and the charges against one officer do not go far enough. First-degree wanton endangerment is a Class D felony, the lowest of 4 classes of felonies. The maximum sentence is 5 years. The minimum is 1 year. Demonstrators at a makeshift memorial to Taylor in downtown Louisville called for Cameron to step down after the charges were announced in court and the former detective's bond was set at $15,000. Some demonstrators marched in the downtown area. News footage Wednesday afternoon showed some clashes between protesters and police in riot gear. I understand that Miss Breonna Taylor's death has become a part of a national story and conversation, Cameron said. We must also remember the facts and the collection of evidence in the case are different than cases elsewhere in the country. Each is unique and cannot be compared. Cameron said he spoke with Tamika Palmer, Breonna Taylor's mother, before his press conference. He said there's nothing he can do to take away the grief and heartache that comes with Taylor's death. Louisville has prepared for the possibility of unrest. For months, protesters have criticized the length of the investigation and demanded the arrest of all officers involved. I lost my place. Excuse me. Okay. I'm frustrated right now. It's anticipating new protests. Louisville Mayor Greg Fisher and Louisville Interim Police Chief Robert Schroeder Wednesday afternoon announced a 72-hour countywide curfew starting at 9 p.m. Government buildings will be closed. I'm so frustrated, I can't even read this. Fisher noted that a federal investigation to Taylor's death was ongoing and said policies and procedures in Louisville need to change because Breonna Taylor still should be alive. The city and the police department had already declared states of emergency and set up barricades restricting vehicle access to downtown areas. Stores and restaurants have boarded up their windows and some federal buildings closed for the week. Protesters started gathering Wednesday morning, hours before the expected announcement. Taylor's death set off outrage across the country. Chants of "Say Her Name" caused arrests of officers and a renewed focus on the black women killed by police. Her story gained wider attention during nationwide demonstrations that followed the late May killing of George Floyd at the hands of Minneapolis police. Cameron was named a special prosecutor in the case in May, and the FBI opened an investigation as well. Excuse me. After the announcement of the grand jury's decision, FBI Louisville, in a statement, said the agency continues to investigate all aspects of the death of Breonna Taylor. Our work will continue beyond the state charges announced today. Sorry, this is bad filming right now. Early Tuesday, Sergeant Matling, the officer who was shot, sent a mass email to the department defending its actions and slamming the city's leadership. In June, Hankinson was fired for wantonly and blindly firing into Taylor's apartment. Louisville police chief said 6 officers involved in the incident are under internal investigation, LMPD said on Tuesday. The city of Louisville announced on September 15th a historic $12 million settlement of the family's wrongful death lawsuit. The city also agreed to enact police reforms, which include using social workers to provide support on certain police runs and requiring commanders to review and approve search warrants before seeking judicial approval. I'm not going to read any further because I don't really feel like it. Just, you can read it yourself. The source is CNN News. There's also pictures inside this. As I had stated to you all in my previous video yesterday about this case, I brought to you information that most officers who are brought up on murder of a civilian during an arrest usually do not get indicted by the grand jury. And as you see in this case, these officers were not indicted for murder. One was only charged with wantonly, whatever the hell that word is. It's a joke. You get my drift. Up to 5 years in prison. Let's just say that. That would be the worst case scenario. 1 to 5 years in prison. I'm disgusted, and I have come to understand this thing called life. I'm a 49-year-old African-American female. Both my parents are African-American, both deceased. And I have come to realize at this age, at this moment I sit here, that there has never been value on a black man or black woman or black child's life. That it does not matter if we riot, if we protest, if we peacefully protest, if we sing Kumbaya, if we decide to do nothing. If we decide to never care, we will never have value in this life as long as we are above this ground. That was proven day one when we were kidnapped, my ancestors, from Africa and brought here and dispersed here in the U.S. and amongst other countries around the world. We have no value in other countries, and we have no value here stateside. And with all the things that have come about, with my ancestors living here, working for free, being mistreated, raped, tortured, hanged, burned alive, dogs sicked on them, hosed with water, 50, 60 years later, we still, as African Americans, have no value. And yet people crying on social media about black people, how we are not fit to live, how we're the underbelly of America, how we are uncivilized race. Well, I beg to differ. Because you see, who steals a whole entire country? I'll wait. Who steals an entire damn country? Who steals a man and woman from their land and use them to do ghastly things and work for free? I'll wait. And yet, hundreds of years later, some of you white people, white Europeans, still sit high up on the throne, so you think, and still go on and on about black lives and how we are uncivilized, and yet you seem to forget how the hell our ancestors got here in the first place. And expect there not to be a turnaround and karma. And this is what this is. And I'm going to go ahead and say it. This is karma. This is retribution. This is, yes, America, payback. Okay? It doesn't matter if I like it or agree. And I'm to the point, I really don't give a damn what anybody thinks, because I'm tired and I'm fed up. And I have come to the realization that people do not care about African American people, period. I don't care how you name it. Black lives, brown lives. Some of you don't give a damn because you don't give a damn about yourself. And no one cared about Breonna Taylor and her guests that night. No one cared about George Floyd. And so many other African American people. You don't give a damn. And you keep continuously blaming all African American people for the crime that goes on in this country. Yet you tend to forget about those rural areas where there are no African American people. So who do you blame for those deaths, robberies, assaults, rapes, child molestation, fraud? Yes, I'm going there. Dope fiends, dope addicts, heroin addicts in rural America, they ain't black folks. And I'm sick of hearing it. Every day I see it on social media. Every comment in the news break articles. Always something nasty said about black folks. We are so uncivilized. But we are the spawn of our caretakers who brought us here. So how about that? Yeah, I'm saying it. I'm pissed off. I'm angry that this lady was in her own home minding her business, and the person that they were looking for was in jail, and they knew that, and they executed a no-knock order warrant and entered her home, and a shootout ensued with her guests, with the police, and this lady lost her life. And as you see, a pregnant woman in the neighboring apartment was shot up. It's a wonder she didn't die as well. And nobody cares about her, and nobody cares about Breonna, and nobody cares about her guest. They went to that home because they were hoping to find drugs in that said home, but did not. And blindly went in, shooting. And as I stated to you all before, it is foolish to have this no-knock order. It is foolish because you don't even know what you're going into. And you expect somebody to be lying in their bed or sitting up, eating, fraternizing, whatever, and not be startled by you busting in their front door. And they don't even know why you're there. And you expect someone to be also in that home, not shoot back. Because like I said before, who the hell knows if that's the police or not? And would I care if I'm startled? Maybe this is why a lot of people don't give a damn. Some African American people don't give a damn. They have given up, and they don't give a damn at all. Because they realize these white people don't care about me. My mama, my daddy, my sister, my child. Why should I care about them? I'm just saying. That's the attitude here in America. That we're just dirty beasts. Here for the entertainment for some of you people. We're just your entertainment. Something to laugh at, mock, shoot on whim. Because we are undervalued. We are America's underbelly. Well, let me tell you about this black queen. I am somebody. And that's the bottom line. And I don't care about what some white person thinks. A Jew, Arab, black, Hispanic. I know my own self-worth. And I don't need validation from no outsider. Yes, I'm angry. Everyone who has a heart and a sane mind should be angry. Because that could be you lying there in the state of Kentucky. Laying face down because somebody entered your home saying they were the police and they had a no-knock warrant and thought drugs were in your house. But they didn't find any drugs. And now you're dead. I wonder if the tables were turned and this was a white person who had died. What would people be saying today? And would these white people also be wanting justice for the said dead white person? Yeah, I'm saying it because it's the truth in the spoken word. Enough is enough. Black lives do matter. We are important. And we are not here by mistake. That there's a reason that we are here. And we ain't going nowhere. So you can keep shooting us, stopping us, profiling us on whim. But believe me, in the end, honey, you will pay the piper. It may not be in this life, but it will surely come in the next. Like, share, subscribe, drop your comments below. Thanks for joining me. This is Everyday Shenanigans. Mask up, America. Breonna, your death will not be in vain, honey. We're going to keep your name on the roster. We're going to keep your name on the roster. And we're going to keep saying your name, Breonna Taylor. I'm out of here.